Who doesn't love Coke, right? Tastes so good. Hey guys, it's Sandeep from RevAtlas and welcome back to yet another video. Today's video is going to be very different. If you're in here for the B-roll, you might be a bit disappointed, but trust me, do watch it and let me know what you think at the end. I think you're going to be finding this quite interesting and one of the most different videos that we have done till date. So you're going to be seeing a lot of this ugly face, which is currently made uglier by this here, and it couldn't come at a worse time. Yesterday I had to live unbox the Nokia 7.2 at Forum Mall in Bangalore, and I had this. I was looking so bad, but well, you have to do what you have to do at the end, and I will include a link in description for that live unboxing, but we will also be bringing you more coverage and unboxing of the Nokia 7.2 on RevAtlas itself in proper RevAtlas fashion, so stay tuned for that. But in today's video, we're talking about my very first iPhone, why I finally bought one, why I finally made the switch, and why I didn't in all these years that the iPhone has existed. But before we get started, please do make sure to give a thumbs up at the end if you like this video, and also do hit the subscribe button for more videos like this. Now let's talk about iPhones. So I'll start this journey back in 2007 when the first ever iPhone came. I was 15 years old at the time, and I personally bought the N95 8GB despite the iPhone being available on the market for two reasons. Number one, it was more expensive than the N95 8GB. Number two, I didn't really think that touchscreens were the way of the future, or that that's how smartphones were eventually going to evolve. Plus, I was more of a spec guy at the time, so I'm pretty sure that we all kind of evolve over time, in terms of our interests, in terms of our knowledge and stuff. Back then for me, specs was everything, and in a way specs were everything at the time as well, because the specs were truly limited compared to the smartphones of today, where almost every phone is able to do so many tasks. Back then, only very few phones could do some basic tasks that would classify them as smartphones, and the N95 8GB was one that could do it all. It had a great camera, it had a great speaker system, it had a sliding keyboard, it had multimedia keys, it had a big screen, 2.8 inch, but it was really big at the time, apart from the iPhone of course. But it had everything that you needed, or everything a teenager would need if they were using a smartphone. So since then, iPhones have come out, several different versions, but whenever I look at iPhones, I always used to find them not as great in terms of the specs compared to Android devices or even Symbian devices before that. So specs is not everything. That's something that I've come to understand now, considering how different devices, even the Nokia 7.2 or several other devices, how they have specs that may seem inferior on paper or may not seem that interesting, but they actually do turn out to be really great and interesting devices in person. But all that things aside, the main issue for me back then was the iOS system itself. I had come from Symbian and eventually was forced to go to Android. Symbian would have been great. We don't know how it would have evolved, but Android was something that I did still feel at home. It was in a way better than Symbian, in a way worse, but Android felt at home immediately. I did try out Windows Phone also in between, but I could never get used to that. But Android felt at home, and I had been sticking with Android devices for a while. My last Symbian device was the Nokia N8, and everyone remembers Nokia for their amazing cameras. And the N8 was one of the last proper true cameras. They had the 1020 and the 808 also after that, but the N8 is still one of the best cameras available on a smartphone to this day. So when I actually wanted to shift to Android, I used the Galaxy S. I quite liked it. Then it was time for the Galaxy S2. I got that as well. But whenever I used iOS, I found I didn't quite like the layout. I didn't quite like the several restrictions on it. And it felt that I was, being tied down whenever I'm using the operating system as well. So not much has changed in that respect. iOS is slowly becoming better, more open, but at the end of the day, it's still not as open as Android and not as easy to use. At least the way I use Android is more easier for me. I feel I'm more efficient with Android, but I feel that iOS is also slowly reaching that level, or maybe I can reach that level of efficiency with iOS as well, considering how it has changed over time. So just today, I was actually uploading some bank statements and stuff like that. So I had to actually download it from my drive, which was already there. I downloaded it. I was trying to attach it onto Gmail Using the iPhone, I was not able to do that. It gave me an option of camera roll or drive. So it was not neither. So how do I do that? Maybe there is a way to do it, but I'm not sure how to do it yet. So these things are stuff that I have to learn and I have to overcome in order to be able to use iOS to its full potential. Some of the other things that I am not too proud of, I used to do a lot of torrents back in the day. iOS doesn't have it, so that was another limitation for me back then. I don't do it anymore. I'm all for paying for content, paying for whatever you need. So that's a change as well, and that's another reason why iOS or iPhones have become more towards my liking in a way. But the biggest change I think has been in terms of cameras. So in the past 2-3 years, I have always been a Pixel user. Ever since the first generation Pixel blew everything out of the water in terms of the image quality itself, I have always liked the way that the Pixel is able to capture images in an instant. Especially now with a kid, it's really easy. The Pixel is always able to capture him without any motion blur because they hardly sit still. Be it pets or kids, they hardly sit still. They don't wait for you to click. So getting them frozen, getting that portion of them frozen in time as a picture is really important to me. And dynamic range and all these other factors were also better. But now as years have gone by, that sort of a gap has been bridged. And to be honest, when I actually tried the iPhone 11, you guys have seen my reviews, at least some of you have seen it. That was actually purchased by my business partner and he allowed me to use it so that we can post content on the same, and I'm still using it. But that kind of told me that iOS is not too bad and iPhones are also not as bad as they used to be. Earlier, the hardware used to have so many limitations. You didn't have wireless charging, you didn't have fast charging, you didn't have multiple cameras or good enough hardware for the camera. It was all about the software side of things. I feel that iPhones are becoming more Android-like in the sense that they're having waterproofing, they're having many of the features that is usually known to be existent on Android devices in the past but was never there on iPhones. I think maybe Steve Jobs wouldn't approve of this particular iPhone right now, but still a lot of other people approve of it and I'm one of them as well. So my two major points in a smartphone, or three major points, are camera, number one, number two priority being the battery life, and number three being the screen itself. Now, I was initially planning to go between the Mate 30 Pro or the Pixel 4 XL, whichever was more towards my liking. Now, the reason I went for the 11 Pro Max is because I saw that the camera capabilities had improved tremendously, despite not sounding too huge on paper. Of course, there's an ultra wide angle lens, but that thing aside, the software processing has changed so much in a good way that it's now on par with Pixel in some instances, or even better than Pixel in some instances. I'm sure that Google is going to do something great with the Pixel 4 XL, but I'm not really looking forward to the bad battery life, considering that they're expected to pack in a small battery for the Pixel 4 XL even, and coupled with the 90 Hz display that it's supposed to come with, it's going to be really bad battery life. So I'm not really interested in that. Huawei, of course, with this Google services and those issues, I'm not sure what to make of that as well. And overall, I feel that this is the closest thing I have to a complete smartphone that can get me through my day. So although the Pixel might have a slightly better camera, not in terms of the versatility, of course this has an ultra wide angle camera and a telephoto and a regular, while the Pixel is apparently just going to have a regular and a telephoto, so it won't have the ultra wide angle camera capabilities, but the battery life is going to be bad. The screen, although it has 90 Hz, I am not sure how good it's going to be, so this seems more better in that sense, I guess. And last but probably the most important point is that ever since the first generation Pixel, I had the first Pixel. It was a white color, it was a black color, white color, don't remember, either way. I had the first generation Pixel. It had boot loop issues. I tried to repair it, but it still had it. Finally ended up selling it at a huge loss. That's fine. Invested in the second generation Pixel because I didn't have a Pixel and I wanted to get back with those kind of images and image quality. I got a Pixel 2 XL. My wife also got a Pixel 2 XL, both black variants. I eventually ended up selling mine to a friend, and he was using it for a year and a half after that without any issues. But my wife's unit had display issues, so we sent it to a screen replacement at the service center, I think twice, and it still had the same issue again. So ended up selling that at a huge loss because of the issue. And Pixel 3rd generation, which my wife is still using, it was actually my phone, but she eventually wanted the Pixel experience just like me in terms of the camera. She's still using it, but she had a charging port issue. So the hardware has been very inconsistent, very unreliable on Pixel, and that has been a huge problem as well. So they would replace it under warranty, of course. They would replace the parts that are affected. But if you look at a similar experience from an iPhone or iOS standpoint of view, they would be more willing to replace the phone itself rather than just repair the parts when it comes to such a major problem such as the screen or the charging port itself. And that's another reason why I feel iPhones are worth the money now. Of course, they cost a lot, and so does the Pixel. The Pixel also costs a lot, and I think it costs 80% of what an iPhone costs. But for that extra 20%, you're getting so much support, both in terms of offline servicing as well as online chat support, tech support, etc., which the Pixel really doesn't have. If you want to actually repair a Pixel phone in India right now, you have to send it to Mumbai. Of course, someone will come collect it from you, send it to Mumbai, and then get it done. But the turnaround time takes a week or so for most cases, and compared to an iPhone, that's really slow. So for someone who's using the primary phone for business, for sort of their work and everything related, you need something that's secure, something that's safe, something that's reliable. And for me, someone who wants a good camera, good battery life, and a good screen, I think this is probably the best smartphone there is. And that is why I finally made the switch to an iPhone. So this here's the 11 Pro Max, picked it up today. The 64GB variant, that's good enough, I guess. iCloud is there, or I can always back it up whenever I need it. I do wish that they actually had USB Type-C. I think that's the major pain point right now. But apart from that, I'm still okay with everything. Love the screen, love the build quality, love the cameras, love the battery life so far. Very limited use so far, but I'm currently at, I think, 94% with around 1 hour screen on time. So that's pretty incredible as well. And the reports that the battery life is insane on this is actually true. I wanted to get the midnight green variant. It's sold out everywhere. You have to pre-order it, wait for 2 weeks, but that itch has already started. And considering that I've been planning on purchasing a smartphone for myself, I didn't actually have a primary phone or a personal phone. I was just using review units in between all of this. So there are times where review units go back and you don't have anything to use. So I didn't want that to happen and to be stranded without a phone. So I thought sooner rather than later, make the jump. And that's the reason. Cameras have improved, battery life has improved. Overall, I myself have evolved into a different kind of user who expects different things from their smartphone, who is able to live with a few sacrifices. And that's the reason why I got the iPhone 11 Pro Max. And yeah, this is my first iPhone purchase ever. I'm not sure if it's going to be my last or whether I will make any more iPhone purchases in the future. But yeah, that's the start. And I think since 2007, it's been 12 years. That's a crazy long time to not have an iPhone, I guess, at least for a person who's involved in tech journalism, I guess, and who likes using flagship phones, I guess. So that's it. If you have any questions, do let me know in the comment section below. Sorry for talking a lot. I have been rambling about certain things, and I don't think I truly made sense at some point. But if you have any questions, do let me know in the comment section below. That's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next one.